Good morning and welcome to Rising. Our show is straight fire today. We're wearing red. What do we have going on, Brianna?
Well, Robbie, we are going to weigh in on Don Lemon's viral reparations moment with guest Denise Long, and Amisha Cross and Abraham Enriquez will join us for our Rising panel. They'll give their perspective on the lawsuit 3 Venezuelan migrants have filed against Florida Governor DeSantis. We'll also dig into what is going on with Puerto Rico's privatized power grid with Puerto Rican journalist Angelica Serrano-Ramon.
But first, let's continue on this journey of the migrant busing saga. So yesterday, President Biden responded to reports that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was possibly sending migrants from Texas to Delaware. Let's watch that.
He should come visit. We have a beautiful shoreline.
Earlier in the day, the White House said that the administration was coordinating with state officials in Delaware to prepare themselves for the arrival. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked whether or not the president had been in contact with DeSantis or Texas Governor Greg Abbott over the immigration dispute, and here's what she said.
Has the president reached out to any of these governors?
So here's the thing, and I was asked this question earlier today. I don't know why we would reach out to a governor or governors who are clearly playing a political game, right? It is something that they're doing not to find a solution, but to literally put people's lives at risk.
Okay, I mean, that is an interesting perspective. I mean, I certainly agree with the idea that this is a political stunt, that this is not
I've acknowledged that many times. It is.
Yeah, and in an effort to, help migrants or to really find the best solution to this issue. But I do think that there is something to be said for having a conversation about what, for example, would end this kind of a practice. If Biden and Democrats legitimately feel like this is a stunt that comes at the expense of the well-being of migrants, I would think that there's some interest in stopping it and talking about what kind of remedies would, that these people would accept, or at very least have the conversation so that Biden can say that he came to them in good faith and tried to work through solutions, and they were the ones that rejected the proposal.
Yeah, and I mean, putting their lives at risk. I mean, they're getting a flight to somewhere else in the country. I mean, the entire migrant journey puts their lives at risk. When the facilities are overwhelmed and there's not adequate place for them when they're in Texas or wherever else they are, some of them end up on the street. I mean, that's putting their lives at risk. I agree that this is, we need to come together and find an actual solution to this instead of just like relentlessly playing politics, but because they are human beings. But the current system puts them in danger during the crossing, and then we're having this status for them that is ridiculous. We need to actually work toward fixing it. And so that was a unfortunate, I think, note of just defiance from Biden, a just refusal to come to the table. If Republicans aren't going to work with him, if they're going to persist in just kind of like doing stunts, that kind of thing, well then fine, but he's not even trying.
Yeah. Did you ever have an adult tell you when you were a little kid, look out for the helpers? I feel like,
yes.
When you're looking at these politicians and they're always playing these games, and it sometimes can feel like just a circle of blame game and you don't know who to trust. I'm looking for people who have solutions. And even if you're talking to someone who's acting in bad faith, if you're the one that's proposing a solution, even if you don't think it's going to be accepted in good faith, you still look like you are coming to the table to play. And I think that's what voters want to see.
Well, meanwhile, DeSantis called out the administration for ghost flights after a reporter questioned whether or not there would be a migrant flight going from Texas to Delaware.
So when Biden is flying these people all over the fruited plain in the middle of the night, I didn't hear a peep out of those people, okay? I didn't hear a peep. I haven't heard a peep about all the people that have been told by Biden you can just come in, and they're being abused by the cartels, they're drowning in the Rio Grande. You had 50 that died in some shed in Texas. I heard no outrage about any of that.
Now, some said this was all a nothing burger. CNN's Caitlin Collins reported that while the administration was tracking reports of migrants being flown to Delaware, according to a spokesperson from the Department of Homeland Security, there were no reports of migrant planes entering Delaware as of yesterday. But it is true that, and this goes to a point I've been making as we're discussing this, look, the migrants don't have to and don't always, in fact, often don't stay right on the other side of the border when they come through. They are free if they've made an asylum claim for under the asylum political repression. They make that claim, and then until that claim is adjudicated, which could take years, they are free to roam the country. They can move about the cabin, and also if there's children in the mix, under U.S. law, the government, our government, has to find foster care for them, or if there's a family, cousins or someone somewhere in the country related to the child you can place them with. That involves often putting them on buses or planes and taking them to other parts of the country. So immigrants moving around, even immigrants whose status is not totally adjudicated or known, moving around is something that happens now. I get the Republicans are doing this specific thing for a political stunt, but this is something that happens normally.
Yeah, I think the argument, and at least the argument that I made yesterday, was the concern is that moving them specifically to Martha's Vineyard was a problem because they don't have the resources there as a destination that's not a typical destination for immigrants for myriad reasons. Because it's not a place with a particular amount of ethnic diversity where people are meeting up with family members or whatever from across the world. It's not a place that's close to the border. It's not a big city where there's a lot of financial opportunities or business opportunities or industry. And so, it's also a place where they just didn't have as many beds and resources, immigration attorneys and the like for the people who were dropped off there. So yeah, I agree. I think the scandal is less so the idea of immigrants moving around the country, or that they would even have that immigration facilitated. I do think it's the choice of where to fly them, and that choice being made without any consideration of what's good for the migrants. And also Ron DeSantis' involvement at all as someone who's not actually from a border state.
Right, he's doing this facilitating in the middle. Well, right, he's involving himself, I think, quite obviously to raise even further his national profile as he seeks to become the thought leader of the GOP. He's trying to replace Trump.
Yeah.
And he's doing a pretty good job of it. In fact, I think his odds of being the next Republican candidate, have gone up dramatically in the last year. From now, I think he would certainly give Trump a run for his money if they both
really
ran. Absolutely. And it's things like this that play extremely well. I mean, no matter what you think about them, you have to concede they play extremely well with the very conservative Republican base, with the kinds of voters he would need. He needs to show these voters that I know you love Trump, but I actually do things. Trump just talks. I do things.
That's the shit I'll watch, for sure.
All right, I'm waiting on the edge of my seat to hear what's on your radar, Brianna. Stay tuned for that.